Good morning. It is Friday, the last day of May 2019. Third video in my censorship series. My censored world. Occupy. A bad trip, but a good lesson. I'm going to talk about my local political experience from the Pirate Party to the Green Party to Occupy Portland to my isolation and setting up the next video as I focus on myself and my family and start to see how things settle and censorship relates to my child and what he is being taught. Starting with the Pirate Party. After getting my fingers singed in my foray into internet creativity and expression, I retreated and looked for another outlet and found local politics to impassion me. In particular, I was curious about the Pirate Party, which had been gleaning some fun news, some fun headlines related to Pirate Bay, I believe. The most famous torrenting pirating site. In college, I was around people that did a lot of Napstering, sharing music back in the late 90s. And I was always interested in that culture. I saw it as a new dimension to the economy. And with streaming services for music and now video, I think the economy has reacted and evolved because of those kinds of pressures. And as a creator, I was interested in technology, censorship, copywriting, trademarking, and patenting. So and intersect politically for those was the Pirate Party. And I was also an environmentalist and had been registered with the Green Party basically since I could vote, 18 or 19, I think. It might have been 19. I might have started a Democrat and then switched to the Green Party. But I hadn't been active. So I went looking, was there any kind of Pirate Party presence in Oregon? And there wasn't. There was just some Pirate Party leaning folks within the Green Party. And so I went about participating in Green Party meetings while developing the Pirate Party, with the understanding that the Pirate Party would be an allied force, kind of this intersect between environmentalism and technology, which is where I like to live politically. I like this idea that I've had for a long time of the progress as fast as we can with the least amount of suffering and destruction. And I see that best being done intersecting the ideals of, at least as I understood them at the time, of the Pirate Party and the Green Party. Pirate Party, transparency was a big part of the Pirate Party, which went in the face of some of the strategies that were being pushed by Green Party members. The Green Party was a very old, like a lot of older retired people, which is to be expected. That's what a lot in any local political scene. That's who has the time to volunteer. I didn't really have the time, but I didn't. I sacrificed to have the time, and I was getting something out of it. I was getting skills, organizing meetings, leadership. It was fun, and Pirate Party led into the Green Party, and I was asked to lead the local Green Party as an organizer. That was a wonderful experience overall. I danced to a tune and tried to make my work worthwhile, tried to cultivate a group of functional people to do functional work. And there were a primary focus was campaign election reform. We found a lot of allies for that. It was hard to branch out from that. It was hard to juggle too many things. I played around with local alternative energy sources. What's it called? It's basically where you have homes that produce more energy than they consume over the course of the year. They're like net zero housing and then net positive housing. That kind of thing really interested me. How can we put stuff in place to put a system in place so that as this technology gets implemented, people can take advantage of it and there aren't barriers and it's just supported. And there was also, I would recruit, say, somebody who was interested in healthcare to lead somebody who was already doing it and then grew them into the Green Party. That was my strategy. It was like find people that have a passion that is allied, that is in line with the Green Party's values, and recruit them in, and then just have them be a part and share and kind of group allied interests together under a third party, and also allied third parties together. So the Pirate Party was kind of this little technology / copyright rights, trademark, patent, transparent governmental transparency aspect of the Green Party, functionally. And I reached out to other third parties, and there was some pushback, but there were times when we came together with a few other parties, and it was a good overall experience. That spirit of cooperation was strong in my mind as I was closing in on my end of my second year, which I'd only planned to do 2 years of service as a volunteer leader, when Occupy broke out. And then Occupy Portland became one of the largest. So there's Occupy Wall Street. It will go down in the history books. It had the most publicity. But there was a lot of Occupies all around the world, and especially within the United States, and especially in Portland. There was a very well-established, one of the most well-established physical camps, at times, I would say, more significant than, at least in the immediacy, than any other Occupy camp. I think in large part because it was hands-off, that local government was just hands-off, letting the camp do what it will. And it was a fantastic experiment. I got to facilitate meetings with hundreds of people experiencing consensus decision making for the first time, which is ridiculous. And there is an unbelievably ridiculous scenarios that would be a complete waste of everyone's time if not for all of us never having experienced something like that before, and us all, I think, taking lessons away from it. One that comes to mind was when I was facilitating people, hundreds of people in the street, and the only thing we could do is decide whether or not to stay in the street. So hours go by, and we're just deciding, do we stay in the street or do we move out of the street? And ultimately, the group, through consensus, decides to stay in the street. But it's not something that they feel strongly enough to actually physically stay in the street. They just decide, okay, our group is going to stay in the street. But me personally, I'm going home. And so just a few people were actually in the street when the police came in 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and swept up the like dozen of people that actually decided to protest. And then the street was clear. So it was just a symbolic decision. I facilitated despite me strongly disagreeing. I thought we should open the street. And I was proud, and I gained some respect because despite my feeling and making public my feeling before the meeting started, with some of the other people that were helping organize things, despite their concerns, I was able to facilitate neutrally. And that's what I found myself doing a lot, enabling and facilitating, and just kind of slipping in my opinions as I could. I was able to get a few things for the General Assembly early on. Something about ranked choice instant runoff voting, something about pushing back against corporate personhood, and then pushing through something about supporting community gardens. I felt those three things that I could pursue and support and build. I was optimistic, but I needed help. I needed people to join with me, and made some progress with the ranked choice instant runoff voting with the local government. But it's just a little bit of progress, but there just wasn't enough competent people coming together on things that they agreed on. And more specific interests divided the camp, and it settled into something that was not safe. And I was not staying at the camp, and I heard, first off, I facilitated a meeting that was disrupted. So consensus was not allowed. There was a protest, essentially. There was a protest at the protest, and consensus was not allowed. And I saw, okay, if this group cannot make decisions, they cannot deal with problems. And then I heard there was a bunch of safety problems. And so I could not enable or allow other enablers to enable us for this camp to go without, like, I had to pull my support, and I had to speak out against those that were continuing to support the camp because it was unsafe for people. People were actively getting hurt. It was only a matter of time until someone died. There was abuses happening. It was just not safe. And it was because of people like me who were, like, my support was mostly just facilitating meetings, but there were people that were providing various services and food and all those kinds of things. And that I believed, and I still believe, it was a problem because you are enabling a unsafe situation to continue. Now, if it was paired, so it was just a problem. And so I facilitated the pulling of support for the camp from some key people. And then I think that helped kind of unpack the camp. And then the city came in and finished off the wounded animal that was Occupy Portland camp later. That was a very interesting time, and the groups continued and split off, and there's a lot of lessons learned. I mean, the group, like Occupy, continued as a group in some form for quite a while. I had recruited some people into the Green Party to be on the board, and the Green Party also gained. I was able to organize because of Occupy, I was able to organize a great. It wasn't a debate exactly. It was more like a Q&A with people standing for the local election, including the person who became mayor of Portland. And I did that all by myself. I paid for it. I paid for the meeting space. I did absolutely everything by myself. I facilitated it. It was kind of amazing that I threw it all together. I mean, that's its own little story. I don't want to go on too long. We're already at 15 minutes. But I rubbed a lot of people along the wrong way along the way, and I was open about using Occupy to recruit for the Green Party, and then when we had a meeting where we decided who we were going to support for mayor, and there was some concerns about that, who we chose as a group, and there was pushback against that, and there was a bad meeting process that I couldn't support to try to change who the Green Party supported. So there was just some bad blood that bubbled up, and I kind of allowed myself to get pushed out so that someone, an ambitious person who wanted to get paid for the job that I was volunteering for, could replace me. And I've written up a long piece on my website about that whole experience. So I'll leave that off and refer you to that. I'll maybe link it in this video. But I found I was isolated. Yeah. So here's censorship comes in. This was when I really started to see the culture war without the name. Like, now I understand this is me experiencing the culture war in part. In Occupy, and when things started to divide, and there was the progressive stack where, as a white male, I was being told that I should not speak, that someone else who was not a white male should speak ahead of me. And then there was those kinds of things happening, but that's kind of the foundation. That's a lot to take in. I think I will I'll leave it there and throw in some links to expand upon my experience. But yeah, I will see you next week, where I'll maybe pick up with me coming out of isolation as a parent in my censored world.